Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm so excited to see your faces. It's so happy and exciting to be here today to just share a little bit with you about how to completely change your desires for alcohol, how to remove them, how to get more freedom back in your life. And I'll share a little bit about my story and how I've gotten there. But first, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the chat. Let's just say hi to each other. Let me know where you're from. I'm in Southern California myself. We're having some really nice weather. It's finally heating up for us. So just let me know in the chat. Where are you from?
Uh, Hot Springs, Arkansas.
Oh, hello, Sherry. That's amazing.
Hey,
Welcome. Awesome. We got Sarah, Jennifer's joining, Kate, Catherine, Melissa's here. So good to see you, Heidi. You guys can go ahead and say where you're from in the chat. Sarah is from Virginia. Amazing. Awesome. Well, I'm so excited to see you women because I really truly believe that it is the most intuitive women who start to reevaluate the role of alcohol in their lives. And I'm so excited to share why that is and why as a society we've been just so ingrained into drinking. It's not really any one of our faults. It is such a norm in our society and has really gotten out of hand in the last few decades, which we'll go over. But it's just been such a life-changing journey for me to not only completely change my relationship with alcohol, but also then get that clarity and the confidence to recognize, what do I want so much more than just this immediate gratification that comes in a glass? Like, what is more important to me? What is the most compelling future that I want for my life? And now how can I create and build that? So I'm going to go ahead and share some slides with you guys, and we're going to start our class. And for anyone who's watching the replay or needs to come in or out or anything like that, this is being recorded, so we'll have the replay to you later as well. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, let's get into presenter mode real quick here. Awesome. Can everybody see the slides? Awesome. Great. All right, let's get started. So welcome to the 4 ways to change your subconscious desires for alcohol. So you're definitely in the right place. If you just have this intuitive hunch that you would be happier with alcohol, if you could imagine for a second that we lived on a different planet and we lived on this different planet where alcohol just was never invented, right? There was no wine, there was no alcohol, there's no beer, nothing like that. What would your day-to-day life feel like? What would your weeks feel like? Would you have more energy, more happiness? Would you have more time to work out or do the things that you really want to do? Just imagine this reality where alcohol doesn't exist. And are you getting that kind of intuitive nudge in your heart that it would be so much better? Now I want you to know that you're in the right place. Maybe you've taken a break from alcohol before. Now that dry January is getting really popular these days, it's really normal to kind of take a little break, take a period off from alcohol, and then go back and forth because alcohol is also just so ingrained into all of our social institutions. It's like you might take a little break, but then, there's that cruise or that, gathering with your friends and you're back in it and the habits are back. And maybe, or you want to do big things in the world. And this question about debating alcohol, debating, should I drink, should I not drink, how much, making the rules up, all that kind of stuff is just taking up too much mental energy. I remember how much mental energy, mental gymnastics I was playing all the time to really kind of figure this thing out in my life. And it was tiring. This class is probably not for you if you don't want to leave your comfort zone. You don't want to learn to see things differently. And maybe you want to be doing the same things you were doing in your 20s. So, I have this saying about that. There's like a Peter Pan fantasy where we want to keep doing the things that we were doing when we were younger. And in so many ways, we're kind of rejecting all the beautiful gifts that the universe is trying to give us as we evolve by letting go some of that stuff that we were, picking up as patterns when we were younger. So if we haven't met before, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the founder of Euphoric AF. I had the pleasure of writing the book, Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol, Gain a Happier, More Confident You. It has been such a dream of mine to write that book, and I hope you've been able to check it out. And I'm so proudly alcohol-free. It is one of the favorite things I have and qualities I have about myself because for so long, I believed the opposite. I believed of having an identity and a pride around drinking, and now it's been completely reversed. And I also really love understanding how the mind changes, how we can affect change in our lives. So I love working with people and helping them do that. And so I'm 7 times certified as a coach, and I've been coaching for about 5 years now. I am a wife and a dog mama to the fluffiest Samoyed you've ever seen. He's just this huge fluff ball, 80 pounds. I take him everywhere, adore him. And I love to travel. I've visited over 52 countries. I'm off to Japan on Friday and Bali and Australia. I can't wait to go. And I just love traveling so much. I'm the host of Euphoric Podcast. Maybe you've had a chance to listen. If not, do check it out. And I'm just obsessed with personal development and helping women ditch alcohol and unleash their bigger purpose. So my story, I had such a love-hate relationship with alcohol. Maybe you can relate to this because there's half the time I wanted to drink less or not at all. Half the time I didn't like how I felt with alcohol. Half the time I was like, oh, I wish, let's drink less. Let's make a rule, no more than this many drinks or whatnot. And then the other half of my time, I felt like, oh, but I deserve it. Oh, but I was so good. Oh, but I can't wait to have this drink, right? And it was such a competing two things that were going on in my life. I literally spent years upon years, like too many years to count, waking up every single Monday morning, berating myself for the drinking I did. And it was often on Monday mornings because I drank every weekend without fail. I didn't always drink Monday through Thursday because I just had, the job and the career, but I pushed all the drinking into the weekend, binged over the weekend, and every Monday morning, I literally hated myself. I felt groggy and tired, ashamed. And, I really prided myself at that point in my life by being a quite healthier person. I was not healthy when I was in college. I was just drinking too much and partying all the time. But by the time I was, really reevaluating alcohol, I had adopted a lot more healthy practices. I considered myself a healthy and mindful woman. And it was such an incongruency to be doing all the healthy things throughout the week and then totally over drinking and feeling like literal crap by Monday morning. And so in 2018, I took a break from alcohol via Dry January. And it was a really incredible experience for me because it was the first time that I literally experienced my body without alcohol since I was a teenager, right? Like other than that, my body had been having alcohol pretty consistently ever since then. And I got to live without the shame, without letting myself down at all. Every morning I woke up so proud of myself. No rough sleep. My sleep was getting so much better. And I loved how I felt without alcohol. But with that Dry January, it was mostly done on willpower. So come February, I had the same exact desires for alcohol I did before I did that Dry January, And then because I did drink a few times that February, it was so eye-opening. Like the sleep was so rough. I hated how I felt with those drinks in my system. It just showed me how much I disliked drinking. And it really committed me to do something deeper, not just take a break, not just focus on the habit change, but focus on the deeper mindset change. And that's what's really changed my life so much. Because I realized that I had really deep-seated beliefs and assumptions about alcohol that led me to want to drink it. Then I realized that I had the power to completely rewire my brain of those beliefs and assumptions. And when I did, my desires for alcohol vanished. So before, this is a photo of me at a vineyard. I would have thought this was a good photo at the time. And now I'm pretty embarrassed about it because I'm puffy. I have like wine stains on my mouth. Before I stopped drinking, I was working in a cubicle. I literally couldn't wait for the weekend every single weekend because I was bored. I was unfulfilled. I just was like, when can it be Friday so we can drink, so we can unwind with alcohol? And I was really, really unfulfilled in that way. I didn't know it at the time. I thought I was just doing what everybody else was doing, unwinding on the weekend. But ultimately, it was a greater unfulfillment and boredom with my life. And honestly, I was snoozing a lot of big dreams I had. I had these really big dreams when I was a little girl and a teenager. And I kind of just pressed pause and snoozed on all of that as I got older. And I also used alcohol to numb the fact that I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. So for example, I always wanted to write a book, but I just couldn't get the discipline to do it. And it felt like it was so much easier to just open a bottle of wine than actually sit down and write the book I wanted to write, So it just was a way that even though it was so cultured and a normal part of socializing, there were always these deeper seated issues too that came to why alcohol was present. Now, after the change, I realized what I really wanted in life and I got the courage to go after it. Instead of feeling unfulfilled and then using alcohol as this band-aid solution to try to like numb that fact, I changed my life, right? I launched a business, I quit my job, I wrote a book, and I went 100% after my dreams. I think you can see the difference in my like happiness levels and radiance just in the pictures. I also devoted myself to personal growth and in playing big. And I'm very honestly one of the happiest people that I know. So my life completely changed. And today I can say that I'm very fulfilled. I help women for a living, and having a life based on impact is so important to me. Having a life based on freedom is so important to me. I have no desires to drink. Like the illusion of alcohol, it was like a balloon that's been completely popped in my life. I have absolutely no illusions or fantasies about it anymore. And I get paid to travel, speak, write books, and work with the most incredible women in the world. And I can 100% say all of this is a result to changing my mindset and beliefs around alcohol. So you came to this class because we're going to talk about the subconscious. So let's do a little debrief on what the subconscious mind does, what the conscious mind does. Why does this matter? How does this have anything to do with drinking? Our subconscious mind is such a powerful beast. Our whole brain is one of the most complex things in the known universe. It actually has more neurons than there are stars in the sky. It is one of the most incredible feats ever, but it is still a tool. And as a tool, it isn't necessarily us, but a tool that we use to be able to perceive the world and think. And so our mind is divided into our subconscious mind and our conscious mind. Our conscious mind is really only 5 to 10% of our mind. It is the part of you that is alert and aware to the things that you're thinking or the things that you're doing. It's your conscious awareness, really, whatever is very conscious to you. But if you think about it, we get so much stimulus and information coming in all the time that our subconscious mind really governs a lot more than our conscious mind does. And because it really relies on repetition and patterns and identity and belief, it is governing your habits, the patterns we have, the beliefs we have, the values we have, all of our automatic body functions, right? Nobody has to remember to swallow or remember to breathe. That all happens automatically. It governs our emotions and our feelings. Our limbic system is found in what we call our subconscious mind, our creativity, our personality, our cognitive biases, our long-term memory, our fears, our automatic thoughts, our imagination, our self-image, our self-identity, and our dreams. So our subconscious drives our identity. And I hope you can see with all the things that it drives that it plays a huge role in our desires to drink alcohol as well. So because there's so much stimulus coming in at all times, right now I'm looking at a bookshelf ahead of me. There's a bookshelf here. There's birds chirping over there. There's my dog over here. If you really look at how much our brain is perceiving at any one moment, it is taking in 11 million bits of information every single second. Now, you cannot consciously think of 11 million things at one moment, right? Our conscious mind can only process around 50 bits of information per second. And so our conscious mind is always deciding what are we going to put into our awareness and what are we going to kind of reject and put somewhere else, right? It's always deciding to pay attention to the things that are already aligned with its previous beliefs and its previous way of looking at the world. So this is a really good model of that. So imagine here on the right on this picture, there's all this information coming in. There's information coming in from your eyes, your ears, the touch, your nose, your mouth. And then your brain has to filter it and it has to categorize it, and it cannot take it all in consciously. So what does it do? A lot of things it just deletes, right? A lot of information that we see in the world, we just automatically delete because the brain says, that's not important for me right now. That I don't need that for survival. I don't need that to do this task at hand. I'm going to just delete that. Other things we distort, right? So we distort a lot of information. For example, if you have a bias or a belief that the world is evil, that people are assholes, that, there's just a cruel world out there, you could essentially spend the rest of your life finding evidence for that. You could find me all the news articles, all the stories, all the horrible, atrocious acts, and you could find so much evidence to back up the belief that, people are essentially evil. But you're also distorting the truth in the sense that you're missing half of the other information, right? You're missing all the stories of all the goodness of people, right? Because I could also spend the rest of my life, if I wanted to believe that humans are essentially good and that, the world is a great place, I could find just as much evidence finding all that information, right? So we distort what comes in based on what our previous beliefs are. We also generalize really easily, right? We take something as specific information and we generalize it to make it make sense in our kind of model of the world. And all of this happens based on our time, our location. So for example, if I called you and woke you up at 2 a.m. in the morning, and I was like, Sherry, can I please borrow $1? You'd be like, what the hell, Carolina? Why are you calling me right now? Like it's 2 a.m. in the morning, right? Now, if I called you at 2 p.m. during the day and we were good friends and I asked you if I could borrow $1, I'm sure you would receive it completely differently and be like, of course, anytime, whatever you need, right? So timing can affect how we, distort, generalize, or delete things. Location can, our mood can, our language can, our memories can, and most importantly, our beliefs can. If something is already coming into our brain that agrees with a previous belief system that we have, we're going to accept it and put it into that conscious mind. If it doesn't fall into our current beliefs, values, or identity, we might distort it or delete it. And so really what we believe about reality is not 100% a full picture of reality. It's impossible for that to be true for any human. It's based on what we currently believe. Now, because of that, reality is subjective, right? Reality is completely subjective. Our conscious mind is taking in information based on our past beliefs. And so if reality is actually subjective and our beliefs are not allowing us to live an empowered lifestyle, that is now evidence that you can change them, right? Anytime you believe something that is bringing you pain or not allowing you to live the life you really want, that is evidence to you that you can change it. And so how does this work with alcohol beliefs? So I just want to give you guys a little paradigm about what's been going on, because a lot of times we see, drinking culture or just the norms out there in our society as the way it is, just 100% reality. And yet we live in a current time and a place. We have a context around drinking. There's a culture around drinking. And there has been a huge shift to recognize that's happened in drinking culture over even just the last 30 years. So for example, in the 1980s, it was proven that Americans drank more soda with dinner than wine. It was actually almost unheard of to drink wine with dinner. That was only for like very fancy French people, right? Like Americans were drinking other beverages. But our paradigms have shifted a lot since then, right? In the 1990s, alcohol was actually declared a health beverage. We know so much better now, it is not, but doctors started recommending drinking, especially moderate drinking, as a normal course of your day. And if we just look at the last 30 years, how much alcohol culture has changed. I'm an old millennial, and I remember when I was growing up, there were no craft breweries. Like that wasn't a thing. There wasn't these craft breweries that, had these neighborhood locations or that made beers that were sold in stores. Like you could either get Budweiser or Miller, right? There wasn't like this craft culture around it. There were also barely any wineries, there wasn't like wine tasting wasn't really a thing back then, right? If you think about it, it wasn't that long ago that alcohol was not served in movie theaters. And mommy juice culture did not exist. I mean, these days it's so normal and almost glorified to, always be drinking wine when you're hanging out with other moms, especially in some certain circles. And there's all these pillows and memes on the internet to prove that. But in the 1980s, if you went to a soccer game, for example, to pick up your kid with wine in your glass or a tumbler, like that, people would have been like, oh my gosh, I think this lady has a problem. Whereas today, that's actually super, super normalized, right? So just seeing that shift in the last 30 years, like really seeing that, we have been almost bamboozled by this huge industry to drink more and more and more and more. Alcohol industry is actually a $253 billion giant that spends massive amounts of money to get you to believe that alcohol is a necessary part in life. Now, remember how I said that the subconscious is always taking in information, even if we don't think that like it affects us, the marketing, or that, we're beyond that or something like that. Our subconscious is taking it in all the time, these cues that are telling us that alcohol is so normal. Now, this happened even before you started drinking. I want to tell you two stories real quick. When I was looking through an old photo album, I started drinking, maybe I had a first drink when I was 13, but I didn't really start drinking until I was 17. So I started drinking regularly at 17, which was pretty normal. I started drinking in high school parties and then college parties and then, what have you. And it became a pretty well-grained habit for me for the rest of my 20s. But I never really thought about alcohol so much before I started drinking, right? It wasn't really in my consciousness. Obviously, I was a kid, but it was going into my subconscious. So I have this photo album I was looking through the other day, and there's two pictures that stand out to me so crazily. I'm probably 4 years old. It's my 4-year-old birthday party. And I'm sitting at the table with my parents. It's like my birthday party. They invited a lot of guests, and I am drinking a little flute of champagne. Now, I know I'm sure my parents didn't let me drink it. They probably just let me like put it up to my lips or so. I know it wasn't sparkling apple cider. We didn't have that in my Polish household, but it's not the point that I had any champagne at that age, but the point is that I saw adults celebrating with this glamorized drink, right? And I wanted to be them, even at 4 years old. Now there's another photo in that photo album where I am in kindergarten and I'm working on some kind of collage art project. So I'm sitting at a desk and I'm cutting out pictures to go on some kind of collage from a magazine. And here I am, my little, 6-year-old face, and this magazine right next to me has a huge advertisement for vodka, right? I'm in kindergarten. These little cues have been coming in your brain all of your life, and they have been deeply, deeply embedded in your subconscious. Now, as a result, over drinking is now the norm in our society. In fact, the majority of all drinkers, upwards of 60 to 70% of drinkers, regularly overdrink. Doctors and hospitals have actually seen a huge increase in alcohol complications from what they call non-addicted people, especially women. And when we see it all around us, when drinking is so normalized and glamorized like this, it's just so natural to come to a conclusion that it must be okay, that there must be nothing wrong with it, right? It must be okay for us. And that is not the case. We were fooled. No amount of alcohol is good for us. There are so many studies that have been coming out, comprehensive studies that have completely demystified the idea that alcohol in any shape or form could be good for us. It is not good for our heart, for example. The World Heart Federation came out saying that alcohol actually increases heart disease risk, not reduces it, and that a lot of studies that previously said that moderation was good for you were flawed. And the health consequences are pretty dire. Drinking increases cancer, heart disease, dementia, and lowers our overall longevity. Now, even with cancer, obviously I knew that alcohol, like a lot of alcohol, was bad for you. I think most of us know that, but I didn't realize how little is bad for you too. So they say that even 2 drinks a week for a woman increases her breast cancer risk by upwards of 15%. Now, when I was drinking, 2 drinks a week would have been like the healthiest, the best, the most like, whoa, I'm so proud of myself. I only had 2 drinks this week. I would have never imagined that was still increasing my risk. And the thing that I didn't know until I took a break from alcohol was that drinking really affects the quality of your psychological well-being. Alcohol actually, because it stimulates dopamine in the brain the moment you drink it, it's this artificial surge of dopamine that comes out, and our brain can't handle that much dopamine. It's just like with cocaine or with heroin. The brain knows it's this artificial surge. So what it does is it starts moving you into homeostasis. First of all, it lowers the ability of you to naturally feel dopamine in your life. It actually retracts the receptors that are supposed to catch dopamine, so that when we naturally feel dopamine from doing something like completing a workout or playing with a kid or being in the forest or something beautiful, we actually don't feel the effect of that happiness as much because of drinking. Not a lot of drinking, even just regular drinking. And alcohol also induces the release of cortisol in our body. Cortisol, adrenaline, dynorphin, all of these things that psychologically put us down super, super low. Now, depending on the age, they say that alcohol can be metabolized between an hour to a couple days. It actually depends on how old you are, how long it takes your body to metabolize alcohol, but it takes your body much longer to metabolize all those stress hormones that were released because of alcohol. It actually takes weeks to do so. And so when I was drinking every single weekend, I honestly felt very apathetic in my life. I felt like happy hour was the most exciting thing I had on my calendar, and everything else was kind of blah, And I didn't realize that that wasn't me. That wasn't my natural state. Alcohol had so dampened my ability to feel joy and had lowered my ability to feel natural joy at all, and then heightened all of my senses of stress and, low quality feelings. And I think one of the most amazing things I recognize, and why I call my book Euphoric and this brand Euphoric, is that not drinking is actually what makes you feel so euphoric and so happy. And, alcohol is really this chemical that does not get talked about enough, about how much even just little qualities as well changes your psychological mood. So now that we have a kind of base understanding about why the subconscious brain is so important and how much programming we've gotten from society around drinking ever since we were little children up, and a lot, of course, as we became young adults and then drinkers ourselves, here are the 4 ways you are going to want to change your subconscious desires for alcohol. So number 1, when you recognize that you have beliefs about alcohol and what it does for you, there is an opportunity to change that story. So for example, most people will tell me that they drink because they think that alcohol is relaxing. They have a very stressful day after work. They have childcare and all the responsibilities on their shoulders. They just want to relax, right? And so in so many ways, we believe that alcohol itself relaxes us. It helps me feel a certain way, right? And the thing is about that is that alcohol actually does not relax the human body. It releases more stress hormones on our body. It's a toxin that our body has to then go on overdrive to try to detoxify. It does so much havoc for our body. There's no relaxation, like other things that have been proven to relax the human body. Alcohol doesn't do those kinds of things. It does not regulate your nervous system the way other practices do. So it's kind of a complete myth that we think alcohol relaxes us. What ends up happening is that we give ourselves this time and place to finally give ourselves permission to let go of all of our responsibilities. And alcohol acts as the trigger to our brain to say, oh, it's okay to just let go of everything. So we think it helps me feel a certain way. Now, there's so many examples for this. I'm not going to go into all of them, but basically I like to just ask people, why do you like to drink? What do you think alcohol is doing for you in the moment? What is it making you feel? Is it making you feel more relaxed? Is it making you feel more sleepy because you want to sleep better? Is it making you feel more happy? Is it making you feel like something is fun? Is it making you feel more confident in that moment? So you really want to start to recognize what beliefs you have about what alcohol does for you. Now, on the converse, it might not just help you feel a certain way. And again, this is a belief that doesn't mean it's grounded in any kind of science or truth that it actually does the thing you think it does. It also might help you not feel a certain way. So if you're trying to avoid a certain feeling, you might then believe that alcohol is helping you not feel a certain way. So for example, if I feel just overly stressed from work, I don't want to feel stressed anymore. Alcohol is helping me numb that, right? But now the caveat to that is, well, I wake up the next morning with all the stress plus the headache. So did I really numb myself from those feelings, or did I just compound them over time? Now, these beliefs too about alcohol and what it does for you can go very deep-seated, because if it helps you not feel a certain way, sometimes it goes down to a very core issue of not feeling good enough in your own skin, not feeling that you're good enough, smart enough, lovable enough, pretty enough, capable enough. And when we get down to these level of beliefs, they're not just about alcohol anymore, right? They're very, very, very personal. But I want us to recognize that sometimes those deeper beliefs of feeling not enough, the number one fear that most people have is that they're not good enough. And the second fear from that is that therefore I'm unlovable. So it's not just you, it's not just me, it's everybody shares some limiting beliefs and thoughts that at one point or another, we just feel like we're not good enough. And because we're not really willing to go that deep and change those thoughts and really change that subconscious, alcohol can be used as such a shortcut to just, well, I don't want to feel like that. I don't want to be triggered by that. I'm just going to numb myself out, right? So number one, beliefs about alcohol and what it does for you is first recognizing which beliefs you believe are actually married within the quality of the drink. Alcohol does what for me, right? It relaxes me. It helps me sleep. It helps me feel more confident. And getting clear on those is going to be key. Now, it can go even deeper than that, though, too, by helping you not feel a certain way that you are trying to escape from, a certain way of being that is just not something that you're ready to deal with at that moment. And the only way to remove the desire for alcohol in that case is to actually heal that underlying first issue. Now, we also have all these mixed up beliefs, not just about alcohol itself or ourselves. We have all these beliefs about being a drinker. Now, I had this photo shoot done and all the drinks I'm holding are mocktails because that's my thing. But, just imagine in this photo that I was holding alcohol, right? You can imagine this like, oh, I'm a suave woman. I'm trying to be like glamorous and sophisticated. We are bombarded with these kind of images all the time. And if you think about it, at one point or another, when you started drinking, you were so impressionable. I was 17, right? And to me, it signaled that, oh my gosh, I can be a grown-up if I drink alcohol. I'm going to be cool. People are going to like me. I'm going to be popular. It's a way to be independent. It's a way to rebel. You know, maybe as we get older in our 20s and 30s, it's less about rebelling, but more about sophistication and being a wine connoisseur and all these things that we think that being a drinker gives us status in society, right? Drinkers who know their wines are these sophisticated foodies. It gives us the sense that a drinker is intelligent or sophisticated or complex or glamorous, all of these images that we've been bombarded with. And we see it all the time in movies. I mean, think of just like Bond, James Bond, his whole shtick is like shaken, not stirred, right? Because he's so sophisticated. And so this has been ingrained in our brain as well, that drinkers have some kind of edge on people who don't drink, that they have some level of sophistication and coolness that other people don't have. And now this is like not what we're consciously thinking. Nobody's going to the kitchen and pouring a glass of wine because they're like, I want to be like James Bond. However, it is deep-seated into your subconscious. And sometimes the ability to not be able to let go of alcohol means that there's these deep, deep, deep beliefs that make you feel that being a drinker does give you some level of status or ability to fit in or be like everybody else as well. So we have to then decipher what these beliefs are too and transmute them and change them. Now, on the converse, we also have pretty crappy ideas about what it means to not drink in our society. So for example, for a huge number of us for so long, it's felt so embarrassing to even go out and not drink because of our image in our brain of who doesn't drink. Oh, well, the only kind of people who don't drink have this huge problem, right? They have this scarlet A slapped on their chest that, they were, off the wall. They could never be trusted. They were drinking vodka all the time. And nobody wants to be associated with a story, with a caricature, with a stereotype, right? And so if we have negative beliefs about being a non-drinker, we're never going to want to be the thing that we don't like. So even if consciously you don't want to drink, you want to drink less, you want to make alcohol insignificant in your life, if you still have any negative beliefs about what it means to be someone who doesn't drink, your subconscious brain isn't going to allow you to be that person because it's not going to allow you to be someone that you dislike. So it's going to get really clear on really uncovering any of those beliefs or assumptions that you might have picked up about people who don't drink. And maybe these come from experiences that you've had of meeting people over the years. Like, for example, I did have a friend who had a very serious kind of rock bottom moment. She had to go to rehab and detox and then go to AA. And I just remember for so long being like, I don't want to be anything like her. I don't want to be her. I'm not trying to say anything wrong about that path, but I'm just being really honest. My subconscious brain did not want to be anything like that. I'm a very independent, strong-willed person, and I just didn't want to be slapped like that with a weakness. And so I picked up all these cues about what it meant to not drink. And I really did believe that, it's embarrassing to have to say that you don't drink. Now, there's another angle to that too. It's not just people who may have stopped drinking because, we think that there was a problem. Maybe there's this angle that our brain thinks that non-drinkers are boring or righteous or religious or pious, right? So there's probably people that you've met in your life who didn't drink and had that kind of an attitude. And your brain goes, ooh, I don't want to be like that. I want to be with the people who are cool, right? Who are like laid back and able to unwind. So we pick up all these cues about, various non-drinkers in our lives, and our brain categorizes them as something that we don't want to be. Now, I have completely changed my beliefs about what it means to be a non-drinker. First of all, most people overdrink. So who is anyone to go out and say this person had a problem versus that person had a problem? If some woman stops drinking because she knows that alcohol is not aligned with her health, is she the one with the problem compared to her friends who are continually overdrinking? I mean, it's actually ridiculous, right? Most of society overdrinks. And so it's not about slapping people with having a huge problem or not. It's the people who are waking up to wanting to have more health and consciousness and live their lives aligned with their values that are truly the most intuitive ones. And there's so many incredible movers and shakers that don't drink. Every single month, I learn about new incredible people who either stopped drinking or never drank. It's so incredible to see that. For example, some of my biggest idols and heroes do not drink. Tony Robbins does not drink alcohol. Brené Brown does not drink. Gretchen Rubin does not drink. Gabby Bernstein does not drink. Deepak Chopra does not drink. Bella Hadid just came out to say she doesn't drink. Drew Barrymore does not drink. There's so many incredible big people in our society who don't drink. And to think that they are, slapped with a weakness or saw as boring or righteous or something doesn't really the kind of perception I get from them. I get this incredible energy that they're very successful, very energetic, just really incredibly alive to life. And the alcohol just doesn't fit in that kind of a life, right? So we have to also then change what we believe about what it means to be a non-drinker. Now, I was talking to a woman recently who really wanted to be alcohol free and was kind of going back and forth with it because she didn't want to be known as someone who stopped drinking. And I think that that is something that can really hold us back because like we're allowed to evolve and change. If alcohol was kind of poured on us as this norm for so long, and especially over the last 30 years, like I think it's the most independent people that kind of say, wait a minute, this isn't right. I want something better for my life. I think it actually shows that you are so brave, so wise, and so much more aligned with your values. Now, another huge reason why we continue to have alcohol play a role in our subconscious mind is because we're terrified about what it means if we choose not to partake in a social setting. Because we as humans come from this hunter-gatherer legacy, we have literally been evolving as tribes for so long. If you were kicked out of a tribe back in the day, like you would have died, right? Like there was no way to survive without this communal tribe that we used to have as hunter-gatherers. And so belonging is one of our core human instincts. And yet it's so odd that in today's day and age, belonging can look very different. Belonging doesn't mean I wear the same clothes as you. Belonging doesn't mean we look the same. Belonging doesn't mean we read the same books or that we have the same job, right? There's so many ways that we can be independent and still belong together. But why are we so hung up about what everyone is drinking? You're allowed to eat different. You're allowed to pray different. You're allowed to believe different. You're allowed to work different. You're allowed to speak different. But for some reason, we get so hung up on everybody has to drink. And you can see this as like going out to a social situation, feeling really scared or just nervous or about saying no thank you to a drink. Because all of a sudden it feels like you're cut off from the people who are drinking. And there's that little dagger of fear that says, oop, you're losing your belonging, right? Now, this is a huge fear that we can have and a belief that we can have that will not help us change our relationship with alcohol if what we want to belong into is a heavy drinking crowd. Now, how did I change this personally? I want to belong. I want to obviously have a tribe. I want to be with growth-oriented women who are doing amazing things in their lives. But when I look into what I want to fit into, it's not a Peter Pan fantasy of people who are still doing the same patterns and habits that they did in their 20s. It is the movers and shakers of society who do big things and don't have time for alcohol. Now, I love to kind of change my definition of belonging because when I went alcohol free, for example, I met more people. I made more friends and I connected so much deeper. My social life actually went up. My connections went up. My ability to be present and form deep connections with people went up. So it's like we almost have to change and shift what we think we want to belong into. Do we want to belong into very heart-centered, present, vulnerable, incredibly, powerful, empowering groups of people? Or do we want to belong to a place where we're going to get ridiculed or made fun of or chastised because a certain beverage in our glass is different than the glass that they have? I mean, it's actually kind of silly when you think about it, right? And so it takes a lot of forming your own boundaries and being okay with not people pleasing all the time to be able to choose what you're going to fit into, right? It's not about saying I'm not fitting in. I don't care about that at all. No, we will care as humans, but we get to choose what we fit into. And so now I pride myself on meeting the most incredible growth-oriented women who've got so much going on in their lives that alcohol just does not play a role, right? And that even if people do drink, it's just not a big part of their lives. So we can change where we get our sense of belonging from and what we're looking to fit into. And if anyone ever has an issue or problem with you not drinking or just says something snide or a weird comment, it's such a red flag that they have their own insecurities about alcohol and that you are challenging their worldview as well. So these are all kinds of different beliefs you could attack from these different 4 angles to about really categorize which ones were most relevant for you? It's probably a blend of all four, but maybe there was a few beliefs that came out in each category that you can really pinpoint, or maybe a memory came up for you about thinking back to when you were 21 or 18, where some pivotal moment happened that really helped you shift why and how you view alcohol. I mean, for example, I'm introverted. I'm pretty shy. And I mean, I wouldn't say I'm shy as much anymore, but I grew up really, really shy. So when I learned how to first drink, it was this magical elixir for me. It was this magical drink that turned me into an extrovert that I always wanted to be. And, you know, it really made me perceive myself differently and alcohol differently, because I could just magically turn into a person I wanted to if I just had a drink in my hand. Now, at the same time, it also robbed a lot of self-esteem because I was always using alcohol as a crutch. And I had this huge belief that it made me more confident. But when I really looked into it, it didn't. You know, I mean, how many times did I actually embarrass myself because of alcohol? How many times did I have the wine stains on my teeth, or I said something out of character? How many times did I wake up the next morning just feeling ashamed? Alcohol did not make me more confident. It actually lowered my self-esteem and my self-worth over time. So if we want to create a shift in the subconscious mind, we have to use a multi-pronged approach, because the subconscious governs so much. It can be changed consciously, but it takes repetition and time and mindset work. So it's kind of a blend of a multi-pronged approach of all these things that we can do to change our subconscious mind, including uncovering these old beliefs. Just the fact that maybe you recognized a few beliefs that you have here in this class is already a lot of work that you've done to uncover these old beliefs. Some of this stuff has been so deep in the subconscious that it hasn't even been thought of since you had that first memory. Then we work on the belief change to actually change the belief so that it is empowering you and not hurting you. We can do that through affirmations and journaling. We can do that by acting out new patterns, like wearing new identities. We can expose ourselves to new ways. You know, when I went alcohol free, I joined all of these Facebook groups and Instagrams so that I was being exposed to a totally new normal. We can also clear the past and heal the past to change the subconscious so that the subconscious no longer aligns with the past identity, but with the future identity that we're creating. So as you can see, the subconscious governs so much. And if the subconscious isn't in the equation of how to change your desires for alcohol, they're going to fall, they're not going to be sustainable. They're going to like be relying on a lot of willpower. So we need to do the deeper mindset work. So what is the process? Let's go through like a funny belief for just an example. You might find all of these things coming up for you. And I remember I was around 4 months alcohol free when I really found this challenging idea. You know, first of all, I recognized the old belief. I asked myself, well, what about the historical significance of alcohol? You know, haven't humans always drank, and didn't Jesus turn water into wine? I mean, how can I dispute this historical cultural element of alcohol in our lives? Okay, so I recognize the belief. Is it serving me? No, because it's trying to tell me to do something that clearly my soul doesn't want to do. So now I can challenge it, right? If I challenge that belief, I can think of, you know what? In 2023, there has never been as much disposable income or convenience or the onslaught of marketing that we get today around alcohol as there was in the past. In the past, most women didn't drink. It was like a men's thing that they did. And they would, you know, if anything, blow the very little money that was left in that household to be able to spend it on alcohol. It was not a normal thing. It was not around every street corner. It was not on every advertisement. We were not, as a society, drinking so much. So here now I'm challenging it with a pretty good theory that I think could work for me. Now I can write a new story that's so much more empowering and is actually helping me live into the new identity I want to live into. So just because humans did something a certain way for many years doesn't make it right for me or a reason to continue doing it. First of all, we only have historical evidence that very like city-state places made alcohol back in the day. Hunter-gatherers continued not to drink alcohol. And we've been evolving as humans for 5 million years and only have been drinking alcohol for the last 8,000 years, right? So like if anyone is into the paleo or into that more old-fashioned way of connecting with the earth and the elements, like alcohol actually hasn't been around forever, right? And just because it has, if it has, for our civilized history, it doesn't make a reason to continue doing it. So another example I thought to myself was, well, the patriarchy has also been around where, women are not given as much power or rights or, value in our society. That's been around ever since the history of civilization. That is not something I want to continue, right? So we have all these examples of humans doing something at a certain time in a certain place, like slavery and, not giving women the right to vote, all these things that have been historical, elements of our culture, but it's no reason to continue doing it like that. Right. So now I recognized my belief, I challenged it, and then I wrote a new story. And now I can, really look at alcohol differently. Now there's probably like 20, 50 different beliefs that you have in your mind just governed around alcohol. And every single time you fundamentally change one, you're slowly chipping away at the desire for it. This results in freedom, right? Freedom from wanting a drink. I can't, like, the last time I had a craving was February of 2018. I do not crave alcohol anymore. Freedom from that unconscious habit. That subconscious governs so much of just the unconscious, the repetition, the things that we don't consciously think about. And, I think when we're so aligned with a bigger vision for our lives, we have to look into those unconscious habits. And there's that freedom for not wanting to fit in, right? Of wanting more from yourself than just this like need to fit in certain social elements. There's so much happiness and joy that comes from doing this, like living a life aligned with your values. I like to tell women, I don't care if you drink 10 drinks a day or 1 drink a week. Like if it's not aligned with your values, and your values could be health and wellness or presence or mindfulness or being a good role model for your children, whatever it is, if that just feels a little off and icky, you have permission to look into it. You have permission to get curious and change it. You feel so much happier when you're not living with this toxic chemical that is just completely overtaking your systems, making you feel more depressed, more anxiety, leads to weight gain, leads to just so many different complications for the body. And instead you focus on self-love and really truly taking care of yourself in such a loving way. I've also found something that I'm really, really passionate about is that it's almost uncanny, but when you remove alcohol from the equation, you get clarity on what you want most in life. It's not about immediate gratification anymore. You really ask yourself, no, if I could have anything, what do I really, really want? And changing your relationship with alcohol gives you the confidence to go after what you really want. I think there's a really deeper reason why you're here. I really do believe it is the most intuitive, the most brave, and most wisest women who come to reevaluate the role of alcohol in their lives, because they're not just sheep doing what everyone else is doing. You're a wolf that's really carving your own way and finding something that really feels good for you and your level of integrity and values and the bigger purpose you're meant to play here on this world. And, I have just shared so many different things that I have uncovered as I've changed my relationship with alcohol. And I've also helped thousands of women do it. And if you are wanting to get more support with this, more structure on how to do this, more of a loving container and energy on how to really, really change your relationship with alcohol, I would love to work with you. I am just so touched and pleased that the women that I have the opportunity to welcome into my world. And, my Become Euphoric program is a signature program to help you make alcohol insignificant. It's a 4-month program that will help guide you through all of the tenets that we just talked about, with daily exercises and reflections and all the tools that you need, like a craving meditation and mocktail recipes, plus all the live support to make it through. It's really based on this method of changing your relationship with alcohol that is very intuitive, very aligned with the life that you want to create. And so we focus in the first module just on what your intuition is trying to tell you, about what you're meant to do on this planet and how alcohol might be, getting in the way of that, and just how it's nudging you to. I remember that intuition. She woke me up at 4 a.m. almost every Monday to tell me, Carolina, you could be so much more without this alcohol on your shoulders. And then really looking at the framework for this belief change. I think it's so important to also learn about the science of alcohol. I've shared a little here and there, but there's so much. And so much of it is not what we were grown up thinking or being taught, because we were literally bamboozled for the last 30 years into thinking alcohol is somehow a health beverage and good for us. And so learning about the true science of alcohol is oftentimes people tell me I had no idea about this, neither did I. And that's where we can also let go of the past, let go of any shame, let go of any, clear any old things that are holding us down so that we can forgive ourselves and now just create this beautiful future. I love talking about health and wellness. Again, how being alcohol-free supports so much healing. Literally, your cholesterol has been proven to go down when you take a significant break from alcohol, your blood pressure, your liver fat, so many incredible inner markers go down, and you feel it. You feel so much better without alcohol. And so really aligning a good health and wellness plan for you is so key. I always talk about socializing alcohol-free because that is one of the biggest objections we get, right? Because it's like, what I get how to maybe do this at home, but how the hell am I supposed to go to my family barbecue and not drink? And so it's really important to find that confidence, find your one-liners, find how to navigate certain relationships like your partner or your family or your friends, and find even more people that you can invite into your life that are aligned with this new lifestyle. I believe that our emotions are one of the biggest drivers that cause us to drink, a huge, huge trigger. And our emotions are not meant to be numbed, right? So we also go over how to truly listen to our emotions, process our emotions, and get the lessons that they're trying to teach us in really incredible somatic practices and ways to regulate your nervous system so that you're not shoving your emotions down, you're healthily processing them. And I also love to talk about routines that set you up to feel happier and more healthy, whether that's a morning routine or incorporating a gratitude practice or meditation into your life. It's really, really key to set up these new routines that are really going to take the place of, any past drinking routine. I think what's so incredible about changing your relationship with alcohol is how much time and energy you free up. And that's the time and energy you get to really ask yourself those bigger questions. Like, what do I really want out of life? What hobbies would I love to revisit? Where would I love to travel in the world? What if I could do this and that? And really kind of painting this new reality for yourself, and then getting the confidence and courage to step into that new reality. As you're playing a bigger game, alcohol will start to just become a smaller and smaller part of your rearview window. So this is the program in a nutshell. How it works is you'll have core modules that are dropped every week to help change your beliefs on alcohol, heal your past, reflect on what you most want in your life. And it comes with a 24/7 community. We are together in a Slack channel to get coached, ask questions, practice that gratitude live, share our wins, overcome challenge, bond, and get support. We also have live coaching sessions with me and my team, Amy, 3 times a month, where we do live workshops, hot seat coaching on any kind of question or challenge you have, building more community and kind of going over all those sticky situations that could come up. And this also baked in with masterclasses, because I believe that it's not just about removing alcohol from your life. It's like really getting to the core of, well, what was the bigger reason behind drinking? And how can we remove our fears and our limiting beliefs about playing a bigger game and truly harnessing our creative energy and handling social situations confidently? So I'm going to take it over now to Amy. She's the most incredible woman that I've been working with for almost over a year now, who's been supporting our programs and is such an integral role of Become Euphoric. She's going to share her story, a little bit about how she changed her beliefs around alcohol, and just go from there.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Carolina. You are always a very difficult act to follow. And thank you all for sticking with us here. I know it's getting late, probably for those of you that are on the East Coast or other parts of the world, but I am Amy. I am a lawyer, a wife, a mom of 2 very challenging teens, and now very proud to be an alcohol mindset coach. So when I think about my story, I remember TV journalist Elizabeth Vargas talking about her alcohol journey. And she talked about how she went from magic to medicine to misery. And I really had the same experience. And thankfully, I added a 4th M, which is mindset shift. So I didn't drink in high school, but I more than made up for that with my binge drinking in college and law school. My college photo album, which I was thinking about, Carolina, when you were talking about yours, it was all about glorifying alcohol and excessive drinking. I definitely had beliefs at that point that drinking made me fit in. So then when I started my legal career at a big law firm in the mid-90s, I traded my umbrella drinks and my cheap beer for wine. It was white wine first and red wine. And my belief then, my story was that red wine was this magical elixir, and it made the small town Iowa girl much more cool and sophisticated. So I would pride myself at that point about being able to consume many, many glasses and then still get up early the next morning for work or to work out. At that point, I was really still just a social drinker and never drank alone like those alcoholics do. I didn't need alcohol, but I believed again. I believed that it made life more fun, that it made me more fun, that it helped me connect with clients and colleagues, all beliefs, but they were about feeling a certain way at that point, but they really were just stories. And I didn't know that. So now the time for the medicine part of my story. By the time I hit my late 30s, I had 2 preschool age kiddos. I had a busy career as a civil litigator and a husband who had just been deployed to Iraq and then Afghanistan. It was around that time that I discovered the power of a glass of wine on a weekday evening now to relax, quiet the mind, help me fall asleep. All beliefs at this point about not feeling a certain way. So I developed a tolerance at that time, and it wasn't long before a glass a night became at least a bottle almost every night. I knew I was drinking a lot, but the alcohol was always there to comfort me. It didn't talk back to me, didn't get in trouble in school. It really, in my mind, the story, the belief was that it was the glue holding that proverbial shit show together. Then I had a friend that once said, alcohol is the great escape until it isn't. So now cue the misery part. I was in my mid-40s and a family member had made a comment about my drinking after we had a long weekend together. It was more of an observation than a criticism, but it really stuck with me, and I started to question my consumption. Unfortunately, my answer was just to keep drinking so that I could do my best to ignore the question. But here I was getting stuck by that belief that only people with a huge problem would stop drinking. I was functional, so why would I stop? Even though I had to have wine pretty much every night, whether home or on a trip, even when I was sick. My mental health at that point started to decline, even to the point of suicidal ideation, but I still did not connect the dots with my alcohol use. I then finally embarked on a mission of self-improvement, and given that I didn't like being so dependent on this alcohol thing and setting a bad example for my kids on how to cope with life stressors, I started my about 5-year journey with attempts to moderate and get control. I tried all the self-imposed rules and limits, but nothing stuck. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, upset I'd consumed a bottle again, vow that I wasn't going to drink that day, and then just break that promise to myself come evening. It's Groundhog Day over and over. Even though I was only drinking at night, I was thinking about alcohol almost all the time. And so I was just a prisoner to my own mind, and it was getting worse. Then about 4 months into the COVID lockdown, I started Googling, am I an alcoholic? And I bought a book. And by the time I finished that book, I was sold on a challenge to give up alcohol for 30 days with daily emails and videos. That 30 days included my husband's birthday, my birthday, a family trip to Montana, and my niece's wedding. As I always say, go big or go home, right? So it wasn't easy, but it was way easier than I anticipated, thanks to the mindset shift I had experienced. So I then did another 30-day program, followed by a 100-day program, all just to solidify and concretize my learnings, because this 4-month program of Carolina's was not yet in existence. So instead of telling myself that I couldn't drink or shouldn't drink, I no longer wanted to drink. My conscious mind had known for years that alcohol wasn't serving me, but I had finally convinced that subconscious mind of this truth. So I was able to align my behavior with what I wanted to do. And that was just absolute freedom. Then, as alcohol was finally small and irrelevant in my life, I had this just inescapable tug on my heart to help others identify the meanings that their subconscious minds had around alcohol and help them change their beliefs regarding being a drinker and a non-drinker. I think at this point of that quote from Ram Dass, it says, we're all just walking each other home. And I was so drawn to working with Carolina and her Become Euphoric program because it allows me to help walk other people home. And her energy, her outlook, her drive, that's where I wanted to fit in now. So I wish this program had been around years before. It could have saved me and my children a lot of heartache, but I don't dwell on that shame anymore. I try to focus on the gifts of those experiences and how they now enable me to better help other people, maybe even some of you who are struggling like I was. So as with so many other aspects of our lives, we've got these coping mechanisms at one point in our life that just don't work anymore. And we've got to find new ones if we're going to grow and evolve into the people that we're meant to be. And now in this program, I get to help people do that. So I think right now, like my biggest tool and coaching philosophy that I bring to this is the idea of reframing. It's been a game changer for me and perhaps the biggest needle mover in my own life, both with regard to how I view alcohol and myself. So with alcohol, we know that every single thing we do, we are doing it to feel a certain way, and we are wired to pursue pleasure and avoid pain. even with those behaviors that look like they're just self-sabotage or self-destruction, there is a part of our brain that is telling us that's the right thing to do. There is some benefit here that it will serve us. We will not do anything that we believe will only harm us or our loved ones. So whether we like it or not, as Carolina showed with her diagram there, the subconscious really is driving the show. And the task at hand is convincing that subconscious mind of something that your conscious mind already knows, that your behavior is causing more pain than pleasure. So that key to the lasting change here is figuring out where that disconnect is between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And when we can become aware of and then debunk those thoughts and beliefs around alcohol, we can reframe it from being that magical cure-all elixir to seeing alcohol for what it really is. It's a toxic substance that is harmful to us in any quantity. It really is gasoline in a glass. So when our subconscious sees, again, that more pain than pleasure, it doesn't even want to drink. That's when we've got the mindset shift. And that's what I love about your program, Carolina. Like everyone comes in with like their own unique story and reasons for drinking and become euphoric. It covers it all. Now, if any of you guys are like me, you're probably thinking like, okay, I really do want to make a change, but I don't think that I'm capable of it. Maybe you've done the dry January, or you've had other short periods of time where you were alcohol free and gone back. Or maybe you're like me and you've never been able to take a break. This is a hard habit to break. Okay, now I'm going to have the Chicago song stuck in my head because I'm old, unlike Carolina. But this change in habit breaking absolutely can be done. And Carolina and I have had the great pleasure of seeing it happen all the time. But it does take two things. It takes commitment to doing the work, and it takes the support from a community or a coach or someone in your corner. So by commitment, I don't mean commitment to not drinking. I mean commitment to spending a few minutes a day or maybe an hour once a week to reading and watching and learning. We're here to change those neural pathways. We have to build and strengthen the new ones. Even if you never saw another alcohol ad and all your friends stopped drinking, you still have some deep neural grooves in your brain. But the reality, of course, is that we are surrounded all the damn time by alcohol advertising. Our alcohol-soaked society wants us to think that alcohol is good for us, as Carolina mentioned before with the numbers about the alcohol industry. And even though we all know people who are physiologically addicted to alcohol and go to AA and swear off alcohol completely and go to meetings at least weekly for the rest of their lives, I'm guessing most of you are probably not physiologically addicted. In fact, when we look at those who drink excessively, only 10% are physiologically addicted. So you're probably in the 90%. You probably have some strong psychological cravings, but you don't likely suffer withdrawal when you don't drink. And the reality too, on that second part is you are probably one of the first people in your social circle to be thinking about changing your relationship with alcohol because you just know it's not serving you anymore, which leads to that second thing needed for change. The commitment to doing the work, I don't think is enough. You need support. So our Western culture, of course, pushes independence and pull yourselves up by the bootstrap with everything. But life is a team sport, and we are not meant to do this hard stuff alone. We are wired for connection. That's a proven fact of neuroscience. And I think AA has got this part right, but the community support piece, but it can be really hard to find the right group that supports you. And they'll tell you need to go to meetings for the rest of your life, which is probably true if you're just relying on your willpower rather than changing your mindset. So this Become Euphoric program provides that crucial support piece. So whether you join those live group coaching calls that are almost weekly, or you engage with the other participants in the very easy to use Slack app, you are surrounded by others who are struggling just like you, sharing what helps them, what their triggers are, what they're grateful for, and all of that. So, many of our participants don't have other people in their lives that they can really talk to about the struggle. Maybe their friends don't struggle with drinking, or they just aren't ready to make a change yet. And they might even push back on you when you try to make a change. So I love that this program gives people the structure to really dig in and learn about alcohol for a few months. And then you've got lifetime access to the course content to come back and review and refresh it anytime. So that is what I have to share about my story and my background in the program. And I thank you all for listening to me ramble on.
Oh, well, Amy, thank you so much. Such a dear woman, so much warmth that you exude, so much passion, I think, so as well, to really help people change this, because we've been there, we've been in the shoes. Like, I didn't think I could live without alcohol. I thought I never wanted to be the type of person who doesn't drink. And what a shift of mindset I have. You couldn't pay me to drink alcohol at this point in my life. And honestly, I credit this incredible lifestyle that I've been able to build, just so much fulfillment and impact, and the freedom I have to travel and just do all these things. It all goes back to that decision that woman made to reevaluate the relationship she had with alcohol. I think it's really presented to us as this door to open, that the universe wants you to grow. It wants you to evolve. It wants you to expand your identity. And what a beautiful way to do that through this kind of symbolic exercise. We have lots. We'll send you, when we're done with this call, all the information you need, a warm invitation to join us. This isn't a big sales pitch. I just want to extend the invitation to get you the structure, the community, the support, working with me and Amy, we're in there all the time. And to really just give you all this. People who've been in the program, Annabelle says that helped her in so many imaginable ways. She gained so much insights into why she drank, the deeper reasons, what alcohol is doing, and how to deal with the pressures of society, and then how to go after her dreams, which really is the point, you guys, to point of letting go of what no longer serves us so that we can pivot and transition into what really our soul is calling us to do next. We've got plenty of different stories and testimonials on the website, so do go check them out. But I'm just going to share one more with you. This is Megan. Megan is such an incredible woman. I was working with her in this Become Euphoric program, and at first she's taking this incredible break from alcohol, changing all her beliefs. She's just this powerhouse, right? She's working out every day. She's meditating. She's there for her kids. It's just allowing her to be the type of person she always wanted to be. But then it evolves. Then she starts uncovering this dream she has to live in France, although she already has a corporate job with her kids in the United States. And she gets the courage to say, you know what, this dream is on my heart for a reason. So she quits her job. She moves her family to France. She puts her daughter into preschool in France. Her daughter learns French. It's the cutest thing ever. And they spent a year just living in France and crisscrossing Europe, just free to do that without the fear of what ifs and what ifs and what ifs. She just went for what her soul was telling her to do. And she wrote a memoir about the experience. It's just so cool. She's looking for publishing houses now. This all literally happened because of Megan's change in her relationship with alcohol. I know it can sound almost like naive of me to say, ditch alcohol and your whole life, your dreams will come true. But I have so many stories, so much anecdotal evidence of really incredible women removing this thing from their lives and really waking up to their greater purpose and potential. And that's why I do this work that I do. I don't care what people drink at the end of the day. It's not about alcohol. This isn't a judgment thing at all. It's literally about removing the thing that no longer serves you and really doesn't serve a human body. We were kind of tricked into thinking it does, but it's really takes such a toll on our psychological, mental, physical, spiritual health, and just exploring what would life be like without it. And what would it be like if we could clear the brain of all that subconscious programming that we got throughout our time on this planet. Again, and when we first started this class, I had you imagine if we lived on a different planet, like we were aliens, and in this different world, alcohol just didn't exist. There wasn't this toxic beverage, and there was nothing like it, right? There's no substitute. We just didn't drink alcohol. What would you be able to do with your life? What kind of lifestyle would you live? How much healthier would you be? What things on your heart would you accomplish? Alcohol is a story. It's a context. It's a paradigm. It doesn't have to be our reality, and I think what's really happening today is this shift from the same way we used to see cigarettes is happening to alcohol, right? Where everyone used to smoke. It used to be so normal. Even doctors recommended smoking at one point in time, which is kind of insane to think about. The same thing is happening to alcohol, where now we're starting to shift and learn more about the health, and more people are gravitating towards mocktails and dry January and changing their relationships with alcohol. And I'm not saying that alcohol will completely go away, we'll go into prohibition, but I think what's going to happen is it's going to become a true choice, where you could go into a bar restaurant, half the people are drinking and the other half aren't, and everyone is not expected to drink. It's not this social pressure that we have ever since we're teenagers to drink, and we really live in an inclusive society. And maybe in 100 years from now, we really won't be drinking. Maybe it will be like this crude chemical from the 19th century, and they'll invent something new. I mean, thinking that I spent all this time and health and baggage on a beverage sometimes just makes me feel so angry at that alcohol industry, but also so empowered to be an activist to show people a different way. So if you would love to take our invitation to join the Become Euphoric program, you don't know how much I would love to work with you, Amy, as well. We've got a little special bonus for you. When you join, you're going to get a 60-minute personalized call with Amy to go over a personalized plan of attack for you to really learn about your unique situation and really crafting a solution for you. And she's going to be there supporting you throughout the way. After this call, you're also going to get a $200 off coupon code. It's the coupon code is subconscious, so you can use that on any of the pay in full or payment plans. And because alcohol oftentimes is something we spend so much money on, and then, when we want to invest in our personal growth, it can feel a little scary. First of all, there's all these classes on how much money you do save when you don't drink, but I also want to get you guys into how to attract wealth masterclass to really also get into the energetic vibe of clearing up some of those programming, the negative beliefs we also have about how to be able to attract more abundance in our lives. Because I really think women that are powerful and well paid and able to do the things they want to do is going to change the world. So those are our bonuses for you. I just want to thank you so much for coming to the class. I again think it's the most intuitive, bravest, powerhouses, the most wisest women who reevaluate the role of alcohol in our lives. And I really do believe that when women ditch alcohol, they become limitless. And what an incredible society we could live in. So I'm going to turn it off to questions. I'm going to stop my screen share. We will for sure, we will let you go whenever you're ready. But if you have any questions, feel free to either throw them in the chat, or if you'd prefer to unmute yourself, that's fine as well. If you have any questions, feel free to address that. Sherry says she's starting part 3 in Book Euphoric. Oh, that's so exciting. I'm so glad that it's helpful. I have a question here, Carolina. How long did it take before you truly stopped wanting to drink alcohol? Quit for a year and the desire never went away? Such a good question. And, I have to say that it almost sounds like I have some kind of miracle story. Like I just took a break from alcohol and I never wanted to drink again, but that's not the full story, because just like Amy, I had spent probably 7 years before that consciously wishing to drink less. Consciously, you guys, I had a spreadsheet. I feel like it's such a little embarrassing secret to tell you, but I had this spreadsheet and it was like Monday through Saturday, right? And every single week I had to put in every single day how many drinks I had. Why? Because I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to feel better. And, somewhere I read that 7 drinks a week, no more than that. So I'd calculate how many drinks I had. And I'd feel so proud of myself when I could put a 0 or a 1 or a 2. And then I would go to a party and have 1,000,000 drinks and not write that number down. I was like, I don't know. We're just not going to calculate it that week. I'd be so embarrassed. So it wasn't even accurate data, but it was so much mental energy that I spent really over this beverage. And a lot of this belief stuff, like every time I wanted to change, the negative belief would come up. Oh, but only those type of people change their relationship with alcohol. Oh, but you'll never have a party again, or you could never drink at the brewery. All these negative beliefs came up. So it really was like a 7-year process before that. However, when I committed myself to working on my mindset, when I recognized that it wasn't the drink itself, but the thoughts that were causing me so much pain, that I actually did rather quickly. I would say it was maybe a 2 to 3 month process. And it really depends. Some people, it can be a matter of 2, 3, 4 months, maybe even a whole year as well. Because if you think about it, we've been ingrained with alcohol programming for decades. Like, unless you're 15 years old on this class, I hope not, right? Like, you have had decades of this programming, embedded into your mind. And so it takes a lot of that mindset work to change those beliefs. Now, I shared a really silly example about what about the historical significance of alcohol? Most of us are not thinking thoughts like that, like on a day-to-day basis when we want to have a drink. Oh, well, Jesus, made wine, so I'm going to pour a glass, right? That's not in our conscious mind. But I wanted to show you that example to show that I went into the deepest nooks and crannies of all of my thoughts around alcohol, and I cleared every single one, right? The deepest, most uncanny different thinkings that I did. And this was a process that I did that I, teach and Become Euphoric, and we help people with. So I really want you to know that it is possible to lose your desires for alcohol. It is all about what we can clear here in the mindset, and it's worth it. It's so worth it. And there's nothing wrong with you if it's a long process. It took decades of alcohol to get ingrained in there, but it's such a beautiful thing to start to slowly change that mind. The mind is so neuroplastic. Amy, would you mind jumping in and tell us a little bit? Her husband is a doctor, so we want to what does neuroplasticity mean, and can the brain change?
Oh, neuroplasticity is just about how the neurons in the brain wire and rewire all the time. So you think of it too, sometimes you hear that concept, like what we don't use, we lose. And, when we go through teenage, adolescence, all that, there's like all this kind of pruning. So the brain is constantly changing. And there's really no, I think, neuroscience truth to the fact that, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, because you really can. So, but the deeper that pathway is, so like the longer you've been drinking, I think the more beliefs you have around alcohol that are keeping you drinking, the more work you're going to have to put into finding that new pathway. So we're developing a new neural groove in the brain. And when we take that new pathway, like, okay, I'm not going to drink, I'm going to sit with this pain, I'm going to sit with this emotion, I'm going to sit with this belief, I'm going to journal, I'm going to do something different. The more we take that new neural pathway, we're strengthening that. We're making that one stronger, making it easier to do in the future. Not that you'll always do it, but the less you take that old pathway of just numbing and escaping, whatever your reasons are, less you take that one starts to get in kind of disrepair, and that those neurons will separate and break at some point. But I think it really is, as Carolina said, the commitment to learning about this. So for me, it was like 5 years of thinking I wanted to stop. And I was convinced my nieces and nephews, I said, would be bringing me wine in the nursing home. Like I would think, like, how am I someday going to get my wine when I'm older? I never would have imagined that the desire would have gone away. But when I really dug into, like, okay, what are my beliefs, learning the neuroscience about alcohol, the beliefs that I thought it somehow helped me with, heart health or whatever it is, my mindset shifted pretty quickly. And the cravings, they didn't completely go away for me. I think it was probably, like after like a couple months, I was like, man, I don't think I even really want alcohol anymore. And now, still 3 years out, I will occasionally have a desire, like something will pop into my mind, but I'm very able to quickly talk back to it and just kind of say, like, nope, that I might think that's relaxing, but I know it's not. I know the cortisol dump. I know all the things that are going to happen. So the desire can still be there, but I think the overall period on that, Erica, just depends on how much work you put into debunking each of those beliefs that your subconscious has about it. And that's hard, because the subconscious, by nature, we don't know what's down there. So it's by doing the work in the programs and journaling, talking with other people in the program and in the coaching calls, that you can unpack all of that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Amy. And, there's just so many different multifaceted reasons. That's why we love to do like one-on-one personalized coaching and hot seat coaching, because, sometimes it's just a matter of like, our brain wants a treat, and it's not some deep-seated issue. Your brain just is like, it was been programmed for so long. Hey, it's Friday. On Fridays, I get a treat. You know what I mean? And so in so many ways, we can, learn how to not deprive ourselves by incorporating new other healthy treats and such. But there's all these different ways, like if we still think that it's just this group of people who drink and I don't get to be a part of them, and it's like this sad story, then obviously our brain isn't going to like want to be part of this alcohol-free crowd. We have to completely change, how I said in the 4 parts, of all these different facets of our beliefs, both about alcohol, about ourselves, about society, about not drinking, about, wanting to fit in and stuff. So there's just so many angles. And what I say about that is not like, oh my gosh, you have all this work you have to do. What I love is that there's still a stone unturned, right? When I'm struggling with something and I feel like I've exhausted all of my options, that's when I feel so hopeless and helpless. Right? When I feel like I've done everything and nothing works, that's the worst feeling in the world. And whether I'm going through, something physiologically or something mentally or something, when I feel like I am learning new things and there's so much that I haven't uncovered yet, there's so many angles, there's so many solutions, there's so many stones unturned still, it gives me hope. It gives me hope that, I don't have to figure this all out tomorrow, but I see the process. I see that there's so much more I can do, and that really, like, the solution is out there for me, and it's not just a matter of time before it happens. And so that's just a worldview, a belief that I've come to love, even with a health issue. Sometimes a health issue, you're like, I'm doomed, right? We get that feeling. And if we believe that there's no answer for us, then of course, that's the most helpless feeling to have. But if we look into alternative studies or, medicines or foods or something, all of a sudden we can be like, wait a minute, maybe there is something else I can do. Maybe there is more solutions than I thought. So I just wanted to offer that. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to throw them in the chat or to, feel free to unmute yourself. Otherwise, we're happy to let you go enjoy your rest of your Thursday, pour amazing mocktail. I love Kin Euphorics, Wild AF. I love Spindrift. I still treat myself because our brain is looking for that permission to relax more than anything else. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for joining me for this class. Erica, Catherine, Kate, Hunter, Christian, everyone else. It was such a pleasure to see you today, this afternoon. Sherry has heard my book. Thank you so much, Sherry, for being a reader. Christian, so good to see you. We are going to have the replay up and available. We'll send you an email. And if you would love to take our invitation to join the program, we'd love to see you. And if not, I'm rooting for you 100%. Feel free to email any questions. We're such an open book, Amy and I. We'd love to support you any way we can. All right. Have a great rest of your afternoon and evening, and we'll touch base. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.